All right, so I went to game 3 of the Dodgers Blues Jays World Series last night in Dodger Stadium. And by the time you hear this, game 4 might be about to happen. It might be happening. It might have already happened. Not the point. I think I went to one of the best World Series games, at least of this century and maybe of the last 50 years, and God only knows. I mean, we always do this with new stuff. We forget about some of the classics over the years. There's been a lot of awesome World Series games. There's nothing like being at the World Series, the theater of it. Nobody leaves ever, especially in a close game. It's one of those baseball. Nobody's thinking about let's beat the traffic. People are just like, we're here, we're staying here. And the game itself, there are all these crazy defensive plays. It's just like this is what you want to see when you're at the highest level of whatever sport. You want to see like real artistry, just awesome defensive plays. Just everybody, like even Vlad had a really great slide somewhere. I can't even, the whole game blends together, but just some really good baseball across the board, right? But then there's this Ohtani thing that, is its own regular season subplot. He's this generation's Babe Ruth. It's just a thing that happened. It took way too long to get him on one of the signature teams, to get him in some of these playoff moments. He finally gets to the Dodgers. We finally get to see him raise his level in to match some of these magical moments. And in the last round, he had, one of the great individual games in the history of the sport. So then in this game, he's DHing. Every time he comes up, nobody, if it's an Ohtani inning, nobody gets up. Nobody's going to like, I'm going to go run a pee. I'm going to go get a drink really quick. It's just people in their seats waiting for him to bat. And he cranks this double. It felt like one of those games where the momentum was going to be against the Dodgers, but he cranks just this hard line drive double in the gap, gets to second, does this whole thing. Comes up the next time, hits a home run. And then the next time he came up, and I had awesome seats. I was like right there behind home plate. And I don't usually videotape stuff when I'm at games unless it's something, it's like the last play of a basketball game. And I'll do it where I'm watching and I'll kind of hold the camera like this. But Ohtani came up and I think everybody in the stadium actually thought he was going to hit a home run, which I don't really remember ever experiencing that feeling before, where there's like a collective anticipation of, oh yeah, he's probably going to hit a home run. Even Ortiz, who had some red hot moments in 2004, who in 2013 got so hot that the Cardinals just started walking him. This is like, I've never seen anything like this, where it's not surprising that he's going to hit a home run. The only time I can ever think of, other than a couple Ortiz hot streaks, was Barry Bonds during the height of when he just turned into a superhero for maybe some chemical reasons. But it just felt like every time he was up, he was going to hit the ball 600 feet or get a walk. And Ohtani's doing this now. I barely have the phone, and I'm about to hit record, and it's a new iPhone where it's like you could zoom back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I put it on 2, and it's too close. I'm like, oh shit, that's too close. I'll put it on 1, and I look up, and the pitch comes, and he just cranks another one, and people just were losing their minds. They just, nobody can believe what's happening with this. This is Tiger in the late 90s just destroying Augusta. This is Jordan shrugging at Magic in the 92 finals. Like this, like last level of somebody being so much better at the sport than everybody else they're playing with, that kind of nobody knows how to even wrap their heads around what's happening. This is Brady being down 28-3 in the Super Bowl and just like, I'm scoring every time from now on. And he just does it. And at some point you're watching going, I've never seen a sport played like this. Ohtani he hits the homer, people lose their minds. And then every time up after that, they walk him intentionally. And I'm watching the next time he comes up, you can see the dugout. And I'm watching the manager and I'm like, don't walk him. Come on. You got to pitch to him. Everyone wants to just pitch to him. And he does like the intentional walk thing. They walk Ohtani. Everybody goes, boo. But it turns out it's the right move, because if he's maybe going to hit a home run every time he's up, or hit a double, or do something terrible, and the other team's psyched out by him, like, all right, just put him on. Let's pitch to Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. So anyway, it goes from being this awesome World Series, Ohtani, yet again putting his stamp down as the signature guy of this generation on top of all these great plays. And it's like, whoa, this is a World Series classic. And then the game just doesn't end. And it's getting colder. It dips from like 68 to 63, but in Dodger Stadium, it's a little wind tunnely. So people are and everybody's not dressed properly except for the people that go to every game. So it's getting colder. The balls are starting to die. The Blue Jays take out, Springer gets hurt. It looked like he hurt his oblique or something. They take out Kirk after the 12th. Bichette comes out at some point. All of a sudden, the Blue Jays look like they're an expansion team with Vlad Guerrero. So you figure they're basically never going to score unless the Dodgers are just walking people. And then on the flip side, the Dodgers, they're pitching around Ohtani and nobody else can basically either hit a home run or really do anything. And it's zeros after zeros. And when you go to Dodger Stadium, I know I certainly, when I lived back east and you'd watch the Dodger fans, you're like, oh, they suck. They leave after the 7th inning. It can't be overemphasized how hard it is to get in and out of Dodger Stadium. It's like basically going to an NFL game that's an hour and a half away, even if you live 20 minutes from there. Like you can't get in, but you especially can't get out. And everyone who's at any Dodger game, you're always doing the calculus of, well, we could stay for the ninth, but that's another hour and a half in the parking lot. And I'm not kidding. It's an hour and a half. So people are doing that calculus, but this is the World Series. You can't leave. So people are there and everybody's doing the math. And I was thankful and grateful to be with people who were like, there's no way we're leaving. This is the World Series. So we're just like, you just kind of give into the game. And the game's going and it's going. And now it's like 6 hours, even with the pitch clock. And it's heading toward midnight. And you're just doing the math in your head like, wow, I might not be home till 3 a.m, but this is worth it. This is one of the great games. We're checking out like, oh my God, if we get to I think it was the 14th or 15th inning, this will be the second longest World Series game ever. And you start putting that in context, like they've been playing the World Series since, I don't even remember when it started, it's like 1900, 1903. I used to know this stuff. Now I'm old. And you just think of all the different World Series games and you start thinking of the history. It's like, whoa, I get to tell people I went to this. But at the same time, you're going, but what's going to happen? Am I going to die in my seat? Do they need to start making food again? Do they need to reopen like the refreshment stands, all that stuff? At the end of between the bottom and the top of the 14th inning, they redid Take Me Out to the Ball Game, the 7th inning stretch. They just did it again. It was a double stretch. I've never been to a game where that happened. The longest game I've ever been to was in 2004, Game 4, Game 5. One of those games was 14 innings. I think it was Game 5. I can't remember. Those two games just blend together into 26 innings. But that one, there was no pitch clock, and that was my favorite team. And I wrote one of my favorite things I ever wrote after that game. That was like, when it's your favorite team, it turns into another level. You're just basically getting a root canal for 7 hours and you're having a heart attack the entire time. I bet on the Dodgers, but I didn't obviously care about who won in the same way I would have if it was a Red Sox game. But I had Dodger friends at this game that it was like they were being operated on, and you don't know it's going to end. The stress at some point, I don't know how long human beings can be stressed out for. It certainly happens in hockey where you have, and the most famous one for me when I really loved hockey was the triple OT game that Peter Klima beat the Bruins in Game 1, 1990. But in hockey, that's really hard, but at least you have a break, right? It's like, it's a root canal for the entire overtime period. And every time something happens, you're convinced like it's going to be the worst thing ever, the best thing ever. And it's just this roller coaster. But then it stops and you get to like, all right, I have 20 minutes now to regroup mentally. I can get a drink. I can go to the bathroom. In baseball, it's like 3 minutes. We're doing another half inning, guys. Let's go. And Toronto's batting at the top. So you're trying to just get through that inning. And then the Dodgers comes up as well, maybe it happens here. But nobody can get a hit on the Dodgers. Everything's dying in the warning track. And there came a point where we're like, how long could we make it? because I was just not leaving. But it was like, could there be a triple seventh inning stretch? Could this get to the 22nd inning? Like at one point, will I be telling my great grandkids that I went to this game? I probably won't be alive for great grandkids, but hypothetically. Anyway, everyone is just in disbelief by the 15th inning. And then it gets to the 18th, and we're looking it up, and it's like, wow, this is the longest World Series game that's ever happened. And I know from experience with the 2018 World Series, when a game goes this long, you start thinking like whoever wins this game is going to win the World Series. When the Red Sox lost the previous longest game ever in the 18th inning, which was Nathan Eovaldi, he should have been on the Red Sox for the rest of his life after he pitched in that game. But when they lost that game, I just assumed they were going to win the World Series or lose the World Series. It felt like it was like 3 losses. So I knew from that experience, because the Red Sox came back and won the World Series over the next couple games, I knew that it wasn't life or death. But all the Dodger fans that are around me, I think you start to feel it a little bit because they were going to run out of pitchers and they couldn't have pitched Ohtani because you can't really fuck with him. He's the DH. He's going to pitch the next game. And so at some point, we're all talking about, are they going to bring in, like, who would they bring in if they had to bring in a position player? It would be Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts, who's, the greatest, one of the great athletes in the history of the sport, who's just playing lights out shortstop yesterday, even though he's second base, center field, right field, wherever he plays, he's one of the best in his position. Yesterday, he's just playing awesome shortstop. But we were wondering, like, maybe it's Mookie. Maybe he's the one who pitches. All of it was amazing. The one thing that we were pretty certain of was the only guy who could beat the Dodgers was Vlad Guerrero, who's absolutely terrifying. And we were sitting really close to where the Blue Jays would go in the on deck, and you're just watching this dude. He's just this mammoth guy. He's turning around. He's engaging with the crowd. He's so fucking confident. And there was this unbelievable moment in the game. They bring in Kershaw. They're running out of pitchers. And Kershaw has this, sadly storied playoff history with the Dodgers, where he's like one of the most beloved Dodgers of all time, but has he's basically the Karl Malone of baseball. And the Dodger fans are very sensitive of it. They love him, but they also don't trust him at all. So he comes into this game to pitch to the lefty. I don't even remember what inning. It was like the 12th, 13th. Like at some point, you can't even keep track of what inning it was. And they can't even tell you in the scoreboard what inning it is. You have to like squint to see the numbers. And Kershaw comes in, and all the Dodger fans are like, not like this. Not like this. This can't be yet another terrible Kershaw moment. He can't be the one that loses this. So he comes in, and you could feel how tense it was. You could just feel it. Like just a different level. And I've been like for Boston teams in games like that where somebody comes in or you're relying on somebody that you don't trust, and it's the worst fucking feeling in the world. We had it in one of those, I think it was it's either game 4 or game 5. Again, those two blend together for me. I don't remember which one is which anymore. But Wakefield came in. I think it was the 14-inning game. Wakefield came in, and he's throwing a knuckleball to Veritek, who didn't normally catch the knuckleball. And somebody's on third base. And Wakefield was the guy who had given up the Boone homer the year before, which was just not his fault. And nobody even really blamed him as the GOAT because he was so awesome that year, the GOAT of the game. And how nervous people were for every Wakefield knuckleball, not knowing if Veritek was going to be able to stop it. It was just a feeling in the park that I'll never forget. And the other one was when Curtis Lascana came in. I think that was game 4, who was, the last pitcher on the team, and we actually needed him to get outs. And it's just like a different level. So anyway, the Dodger fans had this, but it was on a whole other level because it's Kershaw, and they have all this baggage, and they just love the guy so much, and nobody wants him to be the go to the game. So he comes in, and his first pitch is a ball, and it goes like silent in the crowd. And everybody's thinking like, oh no. It just, I can't describe how dead it got for like a second and a half. Where everyone's just doing the math of like, oh my God, if he walks in the winning run and it's Kershaw, this actually could be such a bummer that it'll swing the series. So anyway, it gets to 2-1, and then he miraculously gets out of it. And the relief that came out, it was almost like more relief than when Freddie actually hit the walk-off. So we're watching it. We're watching. And every time the Dodgers are up, I'm with my friends and we're going, if there's a walk-off, if it seems like a walk-off, we're up the steps, we're out. Because then it turns into Escape from New York. You have to get out as fast as you can out of the parking lot. Every 10 seconds you can get out of the parking lot before other people is like another 5 minutes. And if you don't get out in time, you're just there for 2 hours. So we're like, all right, we have our plan. If there's a walk-off, we're up the stairs. Like we're up the stairs even before it lands. And the catch was the home runs, you just couldn't read them because it seemed like the Blue Jays had one. It seemed like Will Smith had one, and they would just die in the warning track. So Freddie cranks one in the 18th. And we're like, oh, that's good. And the crowd's going nuts and it's carrying. As it's landing, we're flying out of there because it's Escape from New York. And it still took over an hour to get home. We thought we'd played it perfectly. We didn't. Got home 1:30. This is why I have these big bags under my eyes. I couldn't sleep after because it was just too much fun. I love sports. I don't care if who's playing in a World Series game. The atmosphere of it and how locked in everybody is and how nobody leaves and every pitch matters and every moment matters. And you just go to games where you want to see there's something special like Ohtani, or you want to see the most dramatic game possible. And somehow last night had both. And it was just awesome. I have no idea who's going to win this World Series, especially if Springer is going to be hurt. I think that's really, that should be enough for the Dodgers. And they may never pitch to Ohtani again. By the time you hear this, they may have walked Ohtani 5 straight times. They won last year. They won a real World Series last year, unlike the stupid strike one, unlike the 1981 lockout. The last year was a real one. This one going back to back would be incredible, obviously. But the Ohtani thing puts it in another stratosphere. What's happening with him, and it's not just in LA, I think it's everywhere. It just doesn't matter the sport when this happens. When there's somebody people who don't care about sports, people like my mom know what's going on. That's like the last level of sport can get to. This is what the NBA is so desperately searching for right now. They have all these great stars. They don't have the Ohtani. That's just the water cooler guy, the guy that you kind of have to go out of your way to see, the guy who has all of these magical moments inside him and you don't know when they're going to happen. Wembanyama might be that guy for the NBA. There's real signs now that this could happen where it's just something we've never seen before. The Ohtani thing, something we've never seen before. Somebody who has a flair for the dramatic, who's just really, 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 really special. And it's just a shame that it took him this long to get to the Dodgers and to these big moments. But I was so glad I went last night. You know, I'm in my mid-50s. I watched a lot of media members when I was growing up that seemed like they stopped caring about sports in the same way and got more negative, and maybe they'd seen too many games, had too many interactions with players. I still love this stuff. And, you know, you go to a game like that and it's worth it. It's worth not knowing how long it's going to take to get there. It's worth not knowing how long you're going to be in a parking lot waiting to get home, especially having cool seats for a game like that. Really, really special. And one that I've talked about Dodger Stadium before. I still think Fenway and Wrigley are the two ballparks that stand out. And Dodger Stadium, parking aside, is probably the third for the moments like that, especially because they've had cool moments in that stadium, and they do a really good job of bringing the old guys back, which the Celtics do. Some franchises do it. You really have to have the history and you have to have the great players in your background to be able to do it. But like Oral Hershiser was sitting near us. Koufax was right on the other side. You know, you look around, it's like just Steve Garvey was signing autographs. Everybody who meant something to the Dodgers, they figure out a way to get in the ballpark somewhere around. And, you know, you really feel the history when you see these games, not to mention Magic Johnson's there. I mean, obviously the LA celebrities that are there, but they've done a really good job, I think, of embracing the past, leaning into the stadium, leaning into all the great players they've had over the years. And it really does feel, you know, like a special franchise, which I've always felt the Celtics are like that too. You know, it's one of the reasons we wanted to do Celtic City. It's like the eras, the players, and then how you keep protecting the legacy, all that stuff. I think the Dodgers do a good job with that. The Yankees do a good job with that. I got to hand it to them. There's some teams that understand it and do it correctly. And I do think the Dodgers are one of them. But last night, I think just an unforgettable sporting event. And I will always remember it. So I'm glad I went. I came home. I was so wired. I was watching goddamn cable at 2 a.m, sitting on this stupid massage chair we have, trying to crank out my back. My wife sent me my Life 360. We have Life 360 for our family. And she sent me a screenshot. It was like, I think it was the top of the 18th. And it just said, I was in the exact same spot at Dodger Stadium for 8 hours. And I'm just going to screen save that and put it in my iPhone album because there will never be another game like that. So awesome World Series. I hope the rest of the games are as good as that one. I want to tell the story. And it was an honor to be in the photo of the second home run. They had this really cool photo of the Ohtani bat flip, and you could see us in the background. I'm like, that's great. I'm framing that.